So now we're going to talk about graphing logs with transformations. So if a log has a transformation, it will be of the form y equals log base b of x minus h plus k. Now, the h and k behave the exact same way as they do in every other function. The h is a horizontal shift, and it always goes in the opposite direction of the sign. And the k is a vertical shift, and the k behaves exactly the way the sign is stated. If it's plus, it moves up. If it's minus, it moves down. Again, the h behaves opposite. If it's a minus h, it will move to the right. And if it's a plus h, it will move to the left. So let's go through an example that I'm going to make up. And I want you guys to follow along with me as we graph y equals log base 2 of x minus 3 plus 5. Now, the first thing we have to do is identify the parent log. Now, the parent log is just based on the base. Okay, we're going to zone in. What's the base of the log they want me to graph? And that's all I care about. The parent log will be y equals log base 2 of x. This is the most basic form of this function. H and k are both 0. After I've identified the parent log, the next thing I'm going to do is rewrite the parent as an exponential. So 2 to the y equals x. Parent exponential is 2 to the y equals x. I'm going to create my table. I know I'm now choosing y values because the y is in my exponent spot. Best values to pick for an exponential are -1, 0, and 1, which gives me 1/2, 1, and 2. I come over to my graph and I graph this. And I also know that this has a vertical asymptote of x equals 0 because every parent log file has a vertical asymptote of x equals 0. So I come to my graph. I'm not going to actually draw the asymptote in for the parent, but I'm going to be cautious and not go beyond the line x equals 0. But I will draw the asymptote in for the transformed log. So when x is 1/2, y is -1. When x is 1, y is 0. When x is 2, y is 1. And I draw my graph. And again, to keep track, this is x equals 2 to the y. Now I'm going to take this and transform it. When I look at my initial function, I see that all the x values are moving 3 to the right. So for each of these x values, I'm going to add 3. I look here at the k value, and I see each y value is moved up 5. So I'll take each y value and add 5 to it. So when I add 3 to each x, I get 3.5, 4, and 5. When I add 5 to each y, I get positive 4, 5, and 6. I now have to determine my vertical asymptote. My vertical asymptote is based on this h value. So I've got x equals 3. Whatever h is, my asymptote is x equals that number. And again, it's going to have the opposite value of the sign. If this is negative, we will have a positive 3. I come to my graph. I draw my vertical asymptote in at x equals 3. And I have a choice. I can either plot these 3 points, or I can take each of these points and move each of them 3 to the right and 5 up. And I'll see that I get the same points that are in my table. Okay, so this is 3.5, 4. Then I've got 4, 5. And then I've got 5, 6. I know the shape of my log files. I draw it in. And there is my transformed graph of the log.